Salazar Castle. In Resident Evil 4, the castle contains many clues through diary entries, files, and plenty of environmental storytelling that can put together an idea as to what a medieval Resident Evil game could look like. These clues give an account to the events that led up to the Las Plagas parasite being unleashed upon the townsfolk, but also imply that this was not the first time they faced this terrifying outbreak. So in this room you can see a printing press, which was invented around the 15th century, and that is what I'm going to base the time period on when it comes to this text found in this room. So as you can see, there is a illustration next to the text which depicts the battle that is being mentioned. Let's go through the text line by line. So the first line, hear the signal echo through the mountains. We know the parasite is sensitive to sound, not just light, and one of the cultist enemies in the game actually uses a staff which has a bell, which actually makes the parasite mutate. So there are certain sounds which causes a reaction within the parasite itself. I think this could have also been what initially caused the parasite to mutate or become dormant after being discovered in the mines. But also the signal echoing through the mountains. I think this could also be, and this is going to sound very far-fetched, but there is real-life evidence that shows that the formation of the mountains around an area can change the pitch of sounds, and whether that be church bells in the village or different sounds coming from the castle area, I think this could all have influenced the parasite to awaken. Now the second line, rocks become gravel and the castle walls crumble. This definitely refers to the battle taking place within the castle as depicted in the illustration. The third line, behold the crimson shade of the night sky. I think this is a clear reference to the on-screen effect when the parasite is mutating. We see that the sound of the cultist doesn't just make the parasite mutate and grow, but it also affects infected people. Leon is infected in the game, and we see that he has severe headaches and has a very extreme reaction to the sound that the parasites are reacting to. The same thing with Ada. She responds to the parasite similar to what Leon is going through. Now the fourth line, a river of tainted blood befouls the sea. I think this is showing the infection setting in, the parasite taking over the mind of its host. The river of tainted blood could just be how deeply the parasite has ingrained itself into the mind of the host, where they see that human blood is something that taints and corrupts rather than the parasite tainting and corrupting. And the line after that, sacrifice your life and the blood of your enemy, just shows how the parasite is taking over the mind of its host. And I think the last line is very interesting. Atone for your ancient sins. Once again, this is going to sound far-fetched, but I think this could possibly refer to the parasite originating from the West African country of Kijuju from Resident Evil 5, where if the Resident Evil 4 remake lore hasn't been completely separated from the original or the Resident Evil timeline, this could be referring to the parasite being taken from its place of origin and being brought to Spain. And of course, that resulting in it being encased in amber over the course of many, many years. But the fact that it originated in West Africa could be the original sin or the ancient sin that's being referred to. So for this hypothetical medieval Resident Evil game, I think incorporating a lot of these battles taking place within the castle walls with crossbows, swords and shields, and flails, like a lot of medieval weaponry can be used to incorporate a different style of gameplay. And when it comes to Resident Evil, firearms are the most common, and I think using a crossbow would be a very fun change of pace. Of course, you can still have guns, but it would really depend on the exact time period. When I say medieval, I mean both in terms of the time period itself in medieval Europe, but also the aesthetic. I think Resident Evil 4 has quite a medieval aesthetic to the castle section, and I think having a full game that does give us more of an origin to the Plagas could be very fun to see. I think just how limited the communication is when it comes to that time period. Like, there is no way to send out a SOS signal, there is no radio. Whereas, like in Resident Evil 4, you do have Leon in almost constant communication with Hunnigan the entire time. Same with Ada. She is in constant communication with Wesker and is being observed. And worst case scenario, like, they do send out a helicopter, which granted has happened in the game and has resulted in the helicopter being shot down, but there is always a lifeline there, and I think taking that away could make it even more scary. The protagonist of this game is truly isolated within the castle walls. When it comes to the protagonist of this medieval Resident Evil game, I would love to see something that they actually touched on very briefly in Resident Evil Village, and that is seeing the villagers before the infection. Having the protagonist be one of the villagers could add to the psychological horror, because this would mean that their friends, family, and their home itself has become corrupted. You could see the shift slowly but surely from before the infection to the point of all out chaos when the parasite has completely taken over. There is a deep history with the Salazar family and the castle. The fact that they understood the significance of light when it comes to fighting Las Plagas is very evident in the layout of the castle. The parasite is very weak to light, especially UV light. This is one of the main reasons why you don't see any of the infected villagers mutating during the daytime. But many of the Salazar family's treasures are protected in chambers surrounded by light. So even if it's not the main location, I think Salazar Castle is just full of so many secrets and mysteries that it should definitely come back for this hypothetical medieval Resident Evil game. Crossbows, swords, shields, torches, cannonballs, flaming towers, and a siege on a castle with possibly a return of Las Plagas. I think a medieval Resident Evil game could be the next step in evolving the horror